A lot of training that I've gotten in some masterminds that, teach the whole attraction marketing and, putting out valuable content and people coming to you. I'm not begging for anything. If people are not interested, they're not interested. We don't really want them, that's honestly.
Yo, what is up, everybody? My name is Matt Drouin. I'm the host of the Go Big Live Real Estate Investors Podcast, the show to listen and watch if you are a real estate investor who's investing in some single family houses, kind of sick of the chump change that pays you and what it is taking you in your goals, your monster financial goals, and looking to get into doing larger commercial deals. I am psyched out of my mind today to have Mr. Stephen Predmore of Talbott Investments. Stephen's based out of Baltimore, and he has been employed in the manufacturing and engineering industry for over 20 years. And today, as an entrepreneur with 10 plus years of real estate, he has successfully acquired and managed single-family assets, partnered on several multifamily apartment communities and hotels, self-storage properties, RV parks, as a limited partner, a joint venture partner, and also in a co-general partner role as well. We were trying to do some math in the green room. It's around like exposure to around 400 some odd units as an LP, GP, JV, all the acronyms you want to think of today. So Stephen, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Looking forward to talking to you and telling a little bit about how I've gone from small to go big, just like you said. I dabbled in the single family space, as most folks that I've met do. So if that's you want me to go into it, I can start with that, or what else you got? So went to school in Buffalo, got my engineering degree, started IT manufacturing engineering career. I ended up not liking the snow in Buffalo, imagine that, and moved down to Baltimore, and continued my career within the manufacturing space, and got married, 2 kids, but just always felt like there was more. I really got started. How I really got started was bigger pockets. If I had to say it in one word, it's bigger pockets. I started listening to the podcast, on my commute to work, and it just was just so inspiring. And I ended up taking a loan against my 401k, no penalty, to get started. And I don't know if you know, Baltimore's got some very, very cheap houses, and so I went down that route. Houses were in the $50,000-$60,000 range. I was able to buy a fixer, and I'm a handy guy and I'm an engineer, so I busted my butt working on those houses, and I did 2 in quick succession. And but like you said, it was peanuts. It was like a lot of work, and I was doing everything. I wasn't. I didn't want to hire a property manager because I always heard that you should always property manage yourself first, which I did, and I'm glad I did, but I don't like that. And I was on my way to buy my 3rd one when there was some title hang up with the deal, and so I kind of got like, there was a brief time where I was like, okay, I started looking elsewhere, and I was looking at my cash flow from these 2 single family houses, and I was just like, I am just killing myself for $200 a month, if that, let alone if something happened. And it was actually during COVID that one of my tenants lost their job and stopped paying. In Maryland, very, very blue state, I could not evict her. I could not get her out. So I spent about 6 months dealing with that. And of course, I'm an engineer. I wanted to learn the process, so I was the one going down to court. I was the one filing all these forms, taking off time to go down to court, so dumb. Just like on retrospect, it's like there's people that can do that that are much better at it than you. I couldn't get her out, and I was just like, I got to get out of these blue states, and I want to go bigger. So was kind of, maybe that led me all in the right direction ultimately, but it was painful. So I ended up joining some multifamily masterminds, and that was life-changing. It was life-changing. It was just being around people just like me that had usually gone through the same steps. They'd had a couple single families and they were banging their head against the wall, and they were just like, I know there's money here. I can't figure it out. I can't figure out the combination. So I joined some groups and started going to their events and networking with people that were at the same stage as me. And, there was deals were just flowing. There was deals everywhere. So I kind of hitched on to a few people that, kind of was what I was doing. And we ended up doing our first big deal was a 30-unit multifamily in Anchorage, Alaska. So I've never been to Alaska. Actually, I plan on going next year, but just opened up my whole, it just blew me away that I'm just buying this asset. And it turned out to be a JV deal. And it was a JV deal with about 15 different people, which I would never recommend people do again. When I do JV deals, I want to do a smaller number of people. But they were kind of calling it like a JV deal on training wheels. And so they were bringing a lot of people in kind of at a lower price point, is more of like an educational type JV deal. And I loved it. I mean, I learned a lot on the finance committee, looking at the books, that kind of stuff. And again, red state, easier to get people out. So that just kind of started me out on my journey to doing big deals.
So before we jump into doing a case study, we're gonna dissect in exhausting detail. One of the things I did want to talk about is there is this recurring theme on investing in red states versus blue states. I happen to prefer investing in blue states. But one of the things is that from a housing policy standpoint, I'm actually appearing in front of Speak to City Council tonight. And so I just want to talk about this. Based upon there being an easier way to hold a resident accountable for paying rent actually makes them prioritize their housing bill because there's pretty steep consequences to not paying it, and being able to keep their housing rather than kicking the can down the road like we do in New York State, for instance. This is something that I advocate at the local and state level a lot. In the red states you do invest in, do you find that you actually have a lower eviction rate in those assets, or what?
Lower eviction rate, yes, and we can get them out usually within 30 days, from what I've seen. Like in Alaska, North Carolina, it's much faster. And again, we have property managers on all these bigger assets, so I'm not exactly on top of all the minutia of that, whether, but I just know my experience, I got burned bad and I couldn't get them out for 6 months. So I was done. So.
Yeah. 6 months. It's like one of those things, like I was making an analogy to the restaurant industry, right? So during the eviction moratorium, and this has had very, very deep systemic effects in our communities, and in communities like ours, which are Rust Belt communities like Rochester, New York, across the nation, is that it's like if you were going to a restaurant, you owned a restaurant, a customer came down there, sat down, got a bottle of wine, got dinner, and then didn't pay. Usually you'd be like, okay, you have to leave. And then it's done. You just kind of write the loss off. But when you have a system that doesn't work like that, imagine if that customer gets to stay and occupy that table, and then you have to legally keep feeding them, right? Providing the service until you can eventually get possession back, so to speak. So it's definitely an issue. The way I navigate around it in our region is we only invest in very, very desirable high income areas, and we don't really care what the eviction laws are. Tenants don't even know what the eviction laws are because all they want you to do is to treat them right. Okay, if they treat them right, they'll treat you right, and they'll hopefully stay for longer. So. Let's jump into the first big deal where you had more of a lead role, and tell me about the origin of that and kind of the seminal moment when you really felt like you were ready to kind of do it on your own.
Well, again, I haven't done anything on my own. These are all large assets that we have a team. So I'm not doing anything on my own, and I don't want to do anything on my own anymore. But as far as like jumping into the deal, we had a partner in this mastermind that he has a bunch of assets there already. He's got boots on the ground. He's got property managers. He's got handymen. So he had a real comfort with the area. There's two military bases right up there in Anchorage. It's called J Bear. It's like a joint military base. There's like 7,000 active military there. So there was certainly a need for that, and just a comfort with the numbers and what they were going to do. As an existing asset, that's something else that I'm making sure I'm not into the new construction at this point in my career. It's just too long of a timeline and just too risky for me. I want to take an existing asset that's underperforming and just go in there and spend $5,000 to $10,000 per unit, cleaning them up, bumping up the rent, tightening down some of the property management, some of the operational expenses to pump up that NOI. I like the business plan that he offered. There was some unused garage space that wasn't getting heated garage space. Actually, that's a big deal in Alaska, and some covered parking. So we looked at monetizing all that type of stuff, and that's the great thing about multifamily is that you can go in and you can improve efficiencies and you can add different income streams, bumping NOI, and that's just a great thing that I love as an engineer to kind of look at these things like what can we do with laundry, what can we do with pet fees, what can we do with rubs, and those types of things. So what was the question there?
Yeah, so like I think your theme was is that no, I'm doing this as a team, right? Mm-hmm. And I guess like what was so this deal got brought to you, and this was a contact that was part of the mastermind then?
Yep, that is correct.
Okay. So I guess like how many opportunities did you actually look at before this was the one that you ended up going forward with?
Oh, I'd say probably 10 to 20. Looking at other ones, and honestly, it was a function of time as well. I like when I had money. I was actually looking at another deal in Kansas City. That one ended up not closing, and they returned our money. And so I had money, and this JV opportunity came up. So there's certainly a level of I don't know, within the mastermind when everybody's like showing up to the meetings and putting in the work, and you can just feel it. So I would say probably like 10 to 20 deals I looked at. That's probably smaller than most people would have done, but I was ready. I felt like I had done the work. I was ready. I'm an engineer. I've underwritten deals before, so I took a look at that. I just had a high level of confidence in the team. I wouldn't have done this just on some random, Facebook post. But these people were in the mastermind. They've paid money to be there. They're in the same situation that I am. So there was just a level of confidence just kind of being in a group together.
So Stephen, this opportunity got brought to you. I guess like what was your role on the team as part of this?
So initially, this is a JV deal. So everybody has to have a role. You can't just be a passive money person. So, like I said earlier, this was kind of the way he pitched it was it's a JV deal on training wheels because he wanted to give a bunch of folks kind of experience to be able to say I have 30 units under management. So I'm part of the finance committee. We take a look at the P&L every week, and we're in QuickBooks looking at that and money coming in and out. We've actually had to change property managers. So that was fun, transferring the finances from one group to the other, and they paid the one property manager, but later in the month all the bills are due from the next property. So it was fun. So I've been involved in that. That's my role. There's people that are on like public relations and investor relations. We have asset managers. We actually pay some of the partners an asset management fee who are managing the literal property manager up that are physically in Alaska. So those are some of the roles. We also have some like a contractor. We have a painting company that does our turns as one of the members. So there's different roles. Painting, funny story. Painting is very challenging in Alaska because it's very, very cold early. So like September, like one of our value add moves was just to paint the place. And I think we closed in like August, and like we had like 3 or 4 weeks, and like we can only paint like a third of it, and they said we got to wait till next spring. So yeah, it's a whole thing up there, and the snow removal and that, and parking spaces, and like I said, we now rent out heated parking spaces and covered parking, so that's kind of a nice income stream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in this, your role here, okay, on the finance committee, did you have to actually raise any capital, or did you just bootstrap and put your own capital into this deal?
So no, it was a JV deal. Everybody just brought their own capital to the thing. We brought in one person that did 1031 into it. That was an interesting learning experience for us. Lot of paperwork. They have to sign on things. They're a TIC, a tenant in common situation. So that's very interesting. And I've kind of taken that a lot of syndicators don't like 1031 money, or unless it's a large check, just because of all the additional legal fees and red tape just to accept that money. So.
Yeah, and then also, I mean, I've had colleagues that have 1031'd into tenants in common structures, and is that how it ended up being amongst all the members, was tenants in common?
No, just the one partner did that. Everybody else was just straight. They had their money, and then they took on a role.
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. Enlighten me and talk to me about the mechanics of how that worked, at least like from what you want, what you understand, because I've only had colleagues that have 1031 into TICs, and now they prefer DSTs or Delaware statutory trust structures to do that. Mainly the problem with your 1031, when everybody's tenants in common on there, that everybody has to vote unanimously on any type of move. So it makes the ownership calls very, very difficult, because there's not everybody that's going to agree on something like that. So I didn't even know that was possible. So tell me about that.
Well, they certainly have because they brought in a larger amount of money than most of the other folks did. So they have a larger pro share voting right. And yeah, it is. And I wouldn't do it again. I wouldn't do a JV this big because again, there's like 15 folks, and there's a lot of voting. There's a lot of going back and forth. And, we hold Zoom meetings once a week, and we have to vote for everything. And, we're still going on the Zoom, and like, you have to say yay or nay on the Zoom all the time. And it is very challenging. I don't know the mechanics, Matt, of all that. I wasn't involved in the legal setting that up. I know they had to sign on the debt, and then they had to sign on a bunch of stuff. They're on title. So again, I'm not a finance guy. I'm on the finance committee. I'm more just kind of advising, looking, and seeing how the mechanics of it are going. Again, I'm learning as well. The main sponsor kind of leads that meeting, kind of going over it. But we ask questions, and how are we paying for this month, and we certainly have to make the decisions, because we've had some tenants that have trashed a couple rooms, or one place in particular, and we needed to almost do like a capital call to pay for it when we first purchased. But it ended up not. We kind of voted, or the main person opted to just kind of loan out of his own personal into the deal to pay for that, and we're slowly paying him back. So there's been some challenges. We have some low. It's called AECH, or Alaska Coalition to End Homelessness. We have a nice agreement with them, where we've rented out like 10 of the units just to them, and we get paid no matter if there's a person in there or not. they had turnover in theirs as well. So that's been a nice addition, in addition to some of the military folks that we get as tenants.
Yeah. Now, going forward, I mean, actually backing up a little bit, in terms of the debt, what type of debt was secured to the property? And then also, did every single one of you that were joint venture partners of this deal have to sign the debt?
No, we did not. It was a joint venture deal. It was a Fannie type loan.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So going forward, I mean, we learned a little bit about wouldn't do this many JV partners on a deal this size. Mm-hmm. What other things did you take from this, like learning forward, and how are you applying it out there? And what is on the horizon for Talbott Investments?
So it's funny you ask. Great that you ask. We just closed on another JV deal in West Virginia 2 weeks ago, a 23 unit. West Virginia, very red, but it's also very close to Maryland. It's actually about an hour drive from me. It's a 23 unit. There's just 6 of us on the deal. And what did I take from it? I took, a look for value add opportunities, look for, so this place is already 100% occupied. I really like that. It was cash flowing right out of the gate. And, we're just going to kind of go in and we're adding storage units. We're sub-metering some of the electric, potentially looking at other laundry options just to boost the NOI. But there's certainly not the stress that we had with the high occupancy or high vacancy rate that we had initially in this one. I also like that I'm closer to it. Honestly, I can drive there, and we're going to be, potentially being part of the storage unit, doing some of that demo potentially working on framing and doing a little bit of that, just a little bit. Again, it's cash flowing. It's not like we need to. But I think I like getting my hands a little dirty on some of this stuff. So that's something I took from it as well. I kind of like being a little closer to it. So.
Mm-hmm. Now, what was your role in this JV?
So we haven't officially given everybody hats and shirts for what role they're doing, but there's only 5 of us. So, we just closed last week, 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations. That's what prompted me to reach out to you. Actually, I found it on your Instagram page, and I was like, oh, I got to get this guy on the show. It's still fresh in his mind.
So the one that I just closed was a 54 unit in North Carolina. That was a different one. That was a straight up syndication where I'm co-GP on that role, that deal. Again, this is the North Carolina one, and I'm raising capital for that. And I'm also an investor in that. So that's my role in that one. So
excellent. So on the subject of raising capital, because a lot of people that are in this small multifamily, single family that have really, bootstrapped their way this entire time, I guess what's your methodology, or how do you get this psychology and mindset right to be going out there and quote unquote asking people for money? Because that's how everybody frames it in their mind to begin with until that mindset shifts. So tell me about that.
It's again, a lot of training that I've gotten in some masterminds that, teach the whole attraction marketing and, putting out valuable content and people coming to you. I'm not begging for anything. If people are not interested, they're not interested. We don't really want them, honestly. There's so much opportunity, and you just got to kind of have that whole mindset and that whole attitude that I'm bringing you an opportunity. And if you don't want to invest or it's not the right time, that's a lot of time, people. It's not the right time. So that's fine. I'll keep you in my CRM, and you'll see what I'm doing, and maybe we'll get you the next time around. So again, it's just attracting people, doing podcasts like this. It's going to events. I was just down in Orlando for a Rod Cleef multifamily bootcamp event last weekend. Awesome event. Just meeting other investors. So I post about that, and people see and ask about that, so they're curious. People love real estate. It's sexy. I don't really have to sell it. It's just, this is what I'm doing. I'm making good returns. I'm stacking assets for my future. And then that's kind of one of the things I do want to stress to folks is that some of these multifamily deals, are a long play. It's a long-term play. Like, we may or may not get distributions, quarterly. Usually when you first take down a property, there's a lot of like, CapEx that's being spent. So there's no returns for maybe a year or 18 months. So you kind of got to know going into it. This is a long-term play, but you're buying assets over liabilities, the whole thing. That's kind of the attitude that I do. Also, some targeted outreach. I would say outreach, but targeted being part of certain like LinkedIn groups. Try to find other high net worth people where high net worth people hang out. My wife is a physician. Trying to like get into some of her circles and trying to influence that way. Just like, hey, this is what we're doing. These are people that have no problem being able to write a $50,000 check, which is typically what you need for these type of deals. But so those are some of the things that I'm doing.
Yeah, excellent. So you inspire a little bit of curiosity through the content, and just being aware or making yourself aware in your sphere of influence that you're a certain access point to real estate, right? Which everybody wants to own. I don't care what you say. Not everybody wants to manage it, but everyone wants to own real estate. How do you turn that curiosity into a conversation? How does that conversation typically look like?
Whether it's on LinkedIn or meeting them at out at the bar, like I usually do just telling you about what you're doing. What am I doing? What am I investing in? How am I managing that when I'm still working? How am I managing that when I have two kids, or, one kid in college? So just kind of making it real for them. Like, this is what I do. I went down the single family route and I busted my ass, and I wouldn't recommend that for you, But if you are looking to get into it, there's certainly passive investing things that we can get you involved in. If you want to be more active, I can certainly have you come on as a bigger partner, as an equity type partner. But more just kind of selling the passiveness of it, being involved in some of these exciting projects, talking about red states, blue states, and talking about different things that people are talking about these days, certainly. It's real estate is sexy. It's not a tough sell, honestly. I could talk real estate I'm sure just like you. I could talk real estate till somebody for hours. It just it's an easy sell.
Yeah, holidays are always tough for me because I only want to talk about deals and business and financial markets and yield curves. So. So yeah, I mean, it actually makes me think of something as well. I mean, a lot of people that are, those of you who might be listening or watching here, that are out there active and, whether it's flipping houses or buying small multis or single family houses, that sort of thing, you're going to get these requests for people that, want to quote unquote pick your brain. And a lot of people are going to be, and I used to be like not inclined to take those meetings. But I changed my mind on that a few years ago and really, really wanted to be a resource and a source of value for somebody. So I take those meetings and I go into them, completely opening the book of this is like what you need to do step by step to get yourself, in an optimal position, everything you need to do to find the deal, finance it, manage it. And then when these people or prospects actually figure out how much work is involved with being a lead, then, and also you're educating them on, okay, well, how are you going to finance the deal? Do you have any cash? Do you have any home equity? Do you have any IRAs that can be, converted into a self-directed IRA to buy your own and manage your own property? So you're kind of educating them and planting the seeds on maybe hidden capital sources that might be available to them. And then I always end the conversation with, it's like, hey, this is what we're doing with the next 12 months. We're looking for XYZ deals between X and Y units. If we find a deal we really liked a lot, would you be interested in hearing more about it? And generally that's always a yes, right? Whether it's, whether they mean it or not. So that's kind of like, my methodology that I worked in terms of like being that subject matter expert, because I've been there in the trenches and the single family and small multifamily properties. And, it was novel and fun at first, but it lost its luster after a while.
Yeah. I initially was running a meetup for like a year last year, and it was kind of geared towards like rookie people that were just starting. And again, yeah, how many times I had that conversation over and over again, and they're just trying to find their first deal, and how they're going to scrape together $20,000 or whatever just it is to take down the first deal, and it was kind of exhausting, honestly. And so I've actually kind of pivoted into more of the people that are doing multifamily, and honestly, it's like I almost want to like just go to people that are in my group. There's so many people in our group that haven't done a deal, honestly, these multifamily groups, which just shocks me. But it's like you're preaching to the converted already. You've already yeah. So yeah, again, I've had a lot of those exhausting conversations as well, and it's I don't know if you still run a meetup, don't you, in your area?
Yeah, we run the only nationally recognized RIA west of Albany. It's
awesome.
called Freedom First Real Estate Investors Association.
Nice.
That was my that's my outlet in terms of giving back. And also, I mean, like, sometimes those things can be exhausting. I've actually done a lot of long form education on YouTube in terms of step-by-step stuff. And if somebody wants to get on a one-on-one via Zoom, have me walk them through A through Z, I said, okay, I'll do that. Spend an hour with you, but we're going to need to record this, and I'm going to need to post it on my YouTube channel so that it could be used as a resource for somebody else that's in your same situation. And if you're okay with that, then I'm cool to go. If you're not, I understand it might be uncomfortable for you, and and so on and so forth. So, but yeah. Anyways, Stephen, I forgot to ask before we close the show here. What is the best way for our listeners to get in touch with you and learn more about Talbott Investments?
Sure. You can go to talbottinvestments.com. It's Talbott has 3 T's. There's a free download there for people looking to get involved in passive investing as an LP investor. We have lots of our past deals. We have our current deals that we're working on. We have blog content, podcast content. Just probably that's the best way. I'm also very active on LinkedIn. So Stephen Predmore. Again, I'm an average guy. I'm an engineer. I work full time. I've been able to scale to 200 plus. We have some self storage. It's another 200. So able to scale while working, and I find that working is a great way to be able to continue to invest. I have a goal to do at least one LP syndication per year, just based on just my W-2 money, just extra. That's in addition to other deals that we're looking at. So that's the best way to get a hold of me. talbottinvestments.com.
Excellent. We'll put that in the show notes. Stephen, thank you so much for being on the show and being generous with your time.
Thanks, Matt. Great to be here.